Sterling Hayden identifies the homosexual performers of he had an affair in secret in Old Hollywood. Sterling Relia was born as Sterling Hayden Walter in Montclair on March 26, 1916. His original name was New Jersey. Sterling Ria Walter's childhood was molded by change and catastrophe following the premature death of his father. His Sterling took his mother's place after she remarried. Hayden, the stepfather's last name, even as a child, he had symptoms of adventure. The essence that would eventually characterize his existence. Hayden has dreams since he was a small child of sailing, not of fame and investigation. After graduating from high school, he took eventually, as a teenager, to the sea, becoming a captain after first serving as a shipmate. Sailing wasn't only a hobby for him in his early 20s phase, which was his first real calling. He took many trips as a captain, schooners traversing seas and acquiring a profound reverence for the wild beauty of the sea and risk. This sense of being at sea continued to be a major passion throughout. He would constantly return to his life as a haven to after becoming demoralized by Hollywood's. Hayden's route to acting was one of fabrication, almost by chance, given his impressive 6'5", rough, attractive, and natural-looking frame charm that Paramount noticed executives from pictures who gave him a contract. In spite of his inaction experience, he was sold in the 1940s as the movie's most attractive dude and gained notoriety fast. His early movies like Bahama and Virginia 1941 Section 1941 demonstrated his commanding presence, yet even afterward, he refused to be confined to the part of a typical matinee star. He frequently described as something he did not complete, a task for financial gain, necessary evil in order to finance his actual passions. When the Second World War broke out, Hayden placed his putting a potential movie career on hold and joined the Strategic Planning Office Services, the CIA's forerunner. He was involved under the identity John Hamilton, behind enemy lines in clandestine activities across the Balkans and Europe, providing Yugoslavian resistance warriors and Italy. His military duty was not just risky but incredibly brave. He gained the Bronze Arrowhead with the Silver Star for his courage. The encounter was profoundly had an impact on him politically and personally, influencing his lifetime distrust of authoritative figures and motivating his eventual inclinations toward socialism. Following the conflict, Hayden went back to Hollywood, but found it more difficult to balance his personal beliefs with the needs of the industry. In 1951, amidst he was subjected to the Red Scare, testify in front of the Un-American House HUAC Activities Committee after temporarily becoming a communist in the years following World War II. He grudgingly obeyed and provided the names of other suspected communists. He subsequently referred to this as his worst embarrassment. He sincerely regretted the betrayal of his life. For years, his guilt plagued him and drove a large portion of his writing, including his Wanderer, the acclaimed autobiography, 1963, which documented more than just his travels, but also his political internal turmoil, disappointment, and the fight for genuineness in a world of conformity. In spite of or possibly as a result of his complex connection to Hollywood, Hayden produced a number of the most 1,950 seconds performances that will never be forgotten, and the 1960s he offered a blazing intensity that was stoic to parts in beloved movies like the in 1950's Asphalt Jungle. He performed a death row inmate in John Huston's grim Stanley Kubrick's The Killing, and noir 1956, an intense thriller about a theft that is still a genre-defining masterpiece. One of his greatest, Kubrick's Doctor, had memorable roles. 1964's Strange Love, wherein he depicted the paranoid Jack D. Ripper, a general with scary conviction, and a presentation of dry satire that continues to reverberate in its shadows. Remarks on the craziness of the Cold War. Later, he featured in the 1972 film The Godfather as Captain McCluskey, the corrupt police officer, enhancing a part with threat and gravity that played a crucial role in one of movie's finest movies. Aside from his flick, Hayden's work included parts in television, an arena that was growing quickly. In the 1970s, he was on the Canadian Science. The Star Lost is a fictional television program. It sought to combine speculative philosophical fiction, letting Hayden interact with the content that was a little unconventional. Unlike his typical tough guy roles, although ambitious, the series didn't last long. However, it showed Hayden's readiness to play around with various genres and media at the same time. He additionally an American appeared on Banachek, George Peppard's detective series, which gained popularity because to its combination of these TV roles combine humor and mystery. Though occasionally short, aided Hayden continued to be seen in the entertainment industry at a time when a large number of his peers have difficulty locating work. In the latter part of the 1970s and into the Hayden continued to return in the early 1980s. To include movies that balance both major as well as smaller productions, he starred in the 1978 film King of the Gypsies, a play that examines the lives and customs of a Romani household that enabled him to utilize his capacity to depict multi-layered, intricate personalities. He was spotted in the winter of the following year. Kills 1979, a grim political thriller that's full of conspiracy and intrigue that worked the solemnity and gloomy screen of Hayden persona. He starred in the 1980 film The Outsider, is a movie that further demonstrated his ability to depict strangers and men in conflict. In the same year, he made a significant involvement with the sitcom 9 to 5, which was a critical and economic success, starring Dolly Parton, Lily Tomlin, and Jane Fonda. Despite playing a minimal role, his participation in such a well-known project demonstrated his flexibility and significance in Hollywood's evolving landscape. He carried on with his art till 1981. Hayden performed in the satirical comedy Gas, about a scarcity of gas, and the terror of venom thriller that once more demonstrated his adaptability in handling various film genres. He was also involved in the miniseries on television The Blue and the Gray. 1982 was an epic about the Civil War, highlighting Hayden's timeless appeal as an actor who can portray strong, powerful individuals in history dramas. Despite his continued career, Hayden's life was not free of work disputations. He was taken into custody in Toronto in 1981 International Airport for the possession of hashish, an instance that showed a greater defiant and unorthodox aspect of the actor. Maintains his reputation as an individual who frequently followed his own norms. The media took notice of this episode and gave his structure an additional layer. Appearance in public as an iconoclast who disregarded the conventions of Hollywood beyond acting. In addition, Hayden was a gifted author and he gained respect for his writing endeavors and independent financial success. He released his memoirs in 1963. Wanderer is frank and very intimate description of his life, work, and inner challenges. The book received praise for its honesty and engaging narratives that enable readers a close-up look at the life of an individual who had gone through both Hollywood's glitz and the brutal personal demon realities. In 1976, more than 10 years later, Hayden's book Voyage was published, work of fiction that was based on his own maritime adventures and a passion for travel. In addition to being critically praised and profitable at the same time, at one point, Hayden mentioned that he made a lot of money, but he also regretted that a large portion of these profits were tax loss. Serves as a reminder of the financial difficulties that even in 1983, successful artists frequently encounter. The narrative surrounding Sterling Hayden's remarkable existence was documented in The Pharaohs of Chaos, a documentary. This movie gave a thorough examination of his varied career and his experiences as a wanderer and sailor and his philosophical perspective on life. It served in honor of a man who had survived boldly and distinctively, encapsulating the viewer's imaginations, who perceived him as not only a Hollywood celebrity but also as an emblem of independence and nonconformity. Although acting was never really Hayden's passion, he frequently remained a reluctant star. He fled Hollywood to the sea, bought a barge in Europe, and resided there on the French waterways with his family, adopting a free-spirited way of living. He wrote a number of works, most notably the 1896 novel Voyage, an huge seafaring epic that mirrored his extensive understanding of marine biology and background. His work is as authentic as his life had an air of romance about it, defiance, and unadulterated truth. One of Sterling Hayden's traits was inconsistencies, a patriot who turned down fame, a seafarer plagued by his own decisions. He was stuck in show business and had difficulties with alcoholism, despair, and estrangement. However, he also showed ferocity, independence, integrity, and intelligence, poetic understanding. He wasn't merely a film star who is actually a philosopher, Odysseus in the modern era, looking for purpose. Sterling, outside the camera's lens, Hayden's private life is similar to his. The professional path was interspersed with complexity, feeling, and importance connections that influenced the trajectory of his personal life. His initial marriage was to the sophisticated and successful Britain's Meline. Carroll is a well-known actress. List American and British films between the 1930s and the 1940s. Carroll is renowned for her elegant appearance and notable roles in movies like The 39 Steps, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, 1935, added a touch of refinement to. Despite the fact that their marriage was comparatively short, It attracted public focus because of the importance of both stars' relationship, but ultimately turned out to be unsustainable, maybe a victim of the demands of celebrity, the demands of life in Hollywood, or different individual paths. Divorce terminated their marriage, although it highlighted a moving period in Hayden's early years after the war as he changed from soldier to actor. 1947, Sterling Hayden started his second game, and a longer-lasting union with Betty. Former actress Ann Denoon would acquire the role of mother to 4 of his children. Their marriage was intense, but turbulent, marked by intense emotional ferocity and occasionally severe disagreement between Hayden and Denoon's relationship took place in the midst of the America's post-World War II backdrop during the moment when Hayden was struggling with his own changes in ideology, his contentious association with the Communist Party, and his later un-American testimony before the House, the Activities Committee, decided that Hayden was haunted by him for years. The 4 children were raised by Betty Ann, Matthew and Christian Dana Gretchen in a home that was both intellectually lively and frequently tense due to the weight of the psychological struggles of Hayden and the burden of his restless soul. The pair ultimately separated, and their custody battles grew acrimonious and extensively publicized, having a significant impact on Hayden, who considered fatherhood to be one of the rare stables in his otherwise erratic existence. Hayden discovered a measure in 1960 of stability and a restored sense of tranquility at home when he wed Catherine Devine McConnell, a lady who stuck by his side throughout the remainder of his life. Their marriage survived the changing. Hayden's later years' beaches include his maritime exploits, episodes of sadness, and his slow retreat from the limelight of Hollywood. With 2 more children were born to Catherine Hayden, David and Andrew appeared to reach an agreement into a more subdued pace of family life, frequently withdrawing to his beloved Housebo and then to his Salcedo residence. Catherine from California is well known for helpful disposition and stable manner, provide the emotional stability that Hayden had been craving there. The marriage lasted more than 20 years, enduring until 1986, when Hayden passed away. Despite his deteriorating health in his last years, Hayden's health was frequently surrounded by his kids and grandkids, locating an appearance of tranquility in the extremely institution family that has previously shown mysterious at the height of his movie ideological and professional conflicts. He spent his last years as Sterling Hayden became more introspective and open. He started talking more candidly about the intricacies of his emotional history, including elements of his private life, something he had concealed for so long because of the dominant social and professional old Hollywood's atmosphere. Is one of the most startling and enlightening discoveries he made in private discussions and notes that were not released revealed that he had continued their sexual and romantic connections with a number of well-known during the 1940s and 1952 male actors, relationships that were strictly maintained hidden because of the vicious intolerance of homosexuality at the time. Although Hayden has a reputation for being tough, his chiseled body is hyper-masculine characteristics and imposing presence that make he is a mainstay of noir and war movies classics. There was a man behind that fought deeply at odds with the inflexible requirements placed on male actors in the golden age of Hollywood. According to Hayden's close associates, allegedly cited Clifton Webb, an actor, as one of his first covert partners in the industry. Webb is allegedly gay, despite the fact that he never came out publicly. Renowned for his grace and humor, frequently cast in roles that are acerbic or aristocratic, even though their public personas seem to Webb urbane and dramatic, are quite different. Seafaring and Hayden Gruff shared a mutual comprehension of the dual lifestyles they are credited with leading. The partnership was characterized by lengthy discussions about art from a philosophical perspective, the loneliness of being a man, and something different in a world where the camera desired delusions, and the studio executives. Hayden also spoke with those who wanted silence, affection for his complex relationship with Anthony Perkins, the sulky young performer most recognized for his part in Psycho. Throughout their liaison purportedly took place years prior to. Hayden explained how Perkins's fame peaked him as perceptive, reflective, and weighed down by shame that was ingrained in them by the demands of celebrity and his pious upbringing. They didn't meet often and constantly shrouded in secrecy and kept in remote residences in Laurel Canyon or secret Palm Springs desert retreats. Later on, Hayden would acknowledge that even though the anxiety associated with these interactions, those were painfully beautiful. stolen opportunities for vulnerability with another fellow who shared the same understanding quiet suffering. Additionally, he stated that he had a quick but close, emotionally charged relationship with Sam and Mo, Rebel's tragic young star absent. A cause in contrast to the others, Mino was a member of a younger, more rebellious generation. One is less likely to participate in the previous regulations but were nonetheless compelled to shadows cast by the silent dictatorship of the business. Mano was daring and irresponsible, according to Hayden, and confessed to feeling both haunted and drawn to and protective of his unprocessed emotional vitality of their relationship. While brief made a deep impression on Hayden in particular, given Mano's career faltered and violence took his life. After several years, Sterling Hayden's thoughts did not originate from a position of tabloid rumors, but from a rich source of reflection and regret. Apologies for having spent some of his life in terror and for his loved ones, who were never acknowledged in public. Ultimately, his readiness to identify these men were bittersweet rather than treacherous, honoring the unspoken affections that influenced to him and the remaining lives in the silver shadows forever display. Hayden's prostate cancer caused his death in age of Saucello in 1986.